Last time I was in this room, I won the Pulitzer Prize, believe it or not. And my mother, a little woman from Brooklyn, said, okay, now you don't have to go to law school. So there you go. That was what she, right here at this stage. Many of us have mothers like that, don't we? I just want to talk about Paul, my friend, in terms of his place in the large American pageant. He is a signature actor of this era, and I think history will agree with me on that. You know, I don't think there's another person I can note who has had a run like O'Neill, as George Shultz says, the bright young man in government. When George Shultz is talking about that young man, that was a time when Paul, who grew up without indoor plumbing, mind you, was living in Northern Virginia with Nancy and the 4 kids. Nancy made all the kids' clothes. They couldn't afford a phone. Paul worked every day except Christmas and a short vacation in the summer. He was an American, ferocious, clear-eyed, went to Fresno State, didn't go to Harvard, didn't go to Yale. He understood in a deeper way than many of us what makes this country what it is. And so that's who he was then, prized as the smartest young man in government. Of course, he was a Deming guy, probably before he even knew who Deming was. He always felt good process creates good outcomes. That's what he did in government. That's what George Shultz is talking about. He used that as his guide throughout his life. But I think what's important to understand is that Deming is often seen, I think, wrongly, as a guy who thought a lot about statistical methods, who reduced individuals to statistical models. Deming was profoundly humanistic. It was all about people. And that's why Paul O'Neill is the worthy recipient of this extraordinary award named after Deming. So everyone talks about workplace safety. Everyone knows Paul is the workplace safety guy. I'll tell you a very short story about what happened at Alcoa. I don't think Klaus knows the story. But after Paul walked into a struggling Alcoa in 1988 and said, we're going to make steel, even though they were going to shopping malls and everything under the sun, saying you can't make money in steel. It's like, no, you can. We're going to change the culture of this place. He said, you know, people get hurt making aluminum. We're going to stop that. No, they said, look, industry standards show we're about average. He says, I'm not interested in that. We're going to make sure people don't get hurt doing what we pay them to do. And so workplace safety became his focus, and the numbers moved. What happened is that people felt valued throughout the large bulwark of Alcoa. And O'Neill at the same time says, guess what? I don't care if he's a senior vice president. Best idea wins. It could be from a guy on the factory floor in Australia. What was happening? The country could use these lessons. That company was turning around. So finally, a little group of executives came to Paul a few years later. Most of them had been fired. Their wives had said, just go ask him what he wants. I don't want to leave Pittsburgh. So they came. And they said, Paul, I know the last group that you fired said we were doing this to reduce injuries and payouts for injuries, so there'd be more for the bonus pool, and they got fired. But we think we know what it is. You're doing this to show the people who work for us that, to show them that we care. And Paul said, look, you've come this far, I'll take you the last step. You see, the key to showing them you care is you actually have to care. The people in that room remember it like it was Tuesday. They said it was like a lightning bolt. In business school, I was taught caring is expensive, caring is messy. Paul taught us otherwise. And what he did as Treasury Secretary is he cared. I think it's hard for any mortal to fathom how difficult it was for a sitting Treasury Secretary to say, guess what? I don't think there's evidence of weapons of mass destruction. He said it in the White House again and again. He said, if you cut taxes in a time of war, without precedent, no one's ever done it, you'll blow a hole in the budget. Paul was right about both those things. History is absolutely clear-eyed on that. That took extraordinary courage based on Deming principles. That's why he is a hero. Truly. My wife sent me a note saying, give my love to Mr. Integrity. That's Paul O'Neill. You know, I'll finish just with this one line from Lincoln, which I love, where Lincoln says, character is like a tree, and reputation like its shadow. The shadow is what we think of. The tree is the real thing. And so it is my joy to honor the tallest tree in the forest, Paul O'Neill.